Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the video on the Roman Republic. Let me make sure I've got the right thing. Roman Republic 1. Yes, next time we're going to talk about the transition from the Republic to Empire, and then we're going to spend a couple of videos on the Roman Empire and then one on Roman art. So won't that just be exciting? Um, Yippee. Um, No, I really am excited. This is good stuff. I'm just, tired. I've recorded a lot of these things today. Anyway, hoogie hoo. Um, so, Roman Republic. Um, Rome, you may have heard of it. During the period, you'll notice that we're starting in 509. The Roman Republic lasts from 509 to 27 BCE. Um, So that is roughly, you'll notice, that's roughly around the same time as the beginning of the classical period in Greece. So I want you to sort of think about what's going on parallel to some of this time period in Greece. Now, Rome, during this period, in 509 was a relatively small little city in central Italy that practiced simple kingship like the other areas around it because Italy suffers from, especially northern Italy, north and central Italy anyway, suffers from some of the same uh, geographical issues as Greece and Crete when it comes to how much resources they can produce and therefore due to the inability to support an autocracy with their resource surplus production, uh, practiced simple kingship. Um, so, as I've discussed in previous videos. Um, so, how does Rome, you've probably heard of the Roman Empire, which used to be just absolutely enormous and controlled at its height um, the, you know, practically everything. Um, Here, let me find you an image of this. This will be helpful. Um, oh, that's a tiny image. I don't need that. No, no, no. Why do I keep getting small images for that? Well, whatever. Yeah, there we go. That'll work. Um, so yeah, let me. Okay, so the Roman Empire, at its largest extent, uh, at its largest extent was huge. It was enormous. It controlled everything, as you can see. But we are not there yet. So, how does a tiny little city in central Italy go from that to all of this nonsense? Um, well, that is a story that begins with our discussion of. Oh, damn it! that wasn't transitioning to the right thing. Here's the Roman Empire at its largest extent. Italy or Rome down here in central Italy. So the question is, how does a tiny little city in central Italy go to this later on? That is a story that begins here in 509. Um, so anyway, um, Around in 509, Rome does something. Rome was, like I said, a tiny city in central Italy, and specifically in the south of Italy were Greek colonies. Now remember, in 500, Greece was a relative backwater of the world, and if Greece was a backwater, then Rome was nowheresville. Um, if Greece was an undistinguished part of the world, Rome was just absolutely, nothing. It was beyond anybody's consideration of civilized lands. And in the south of Italy at this period of time, there were Greek colonies. Um, so anyway, um, so what happens is, and remember, the Greeks had developed rule of law by this point. So what happens in 509 is that Rome gets rid of its last king. It transitions out of simple kingship, in other words. Um, so we get the transition from simple kingship. The last king in Rome was a dude named Stock. The last king in Rome was a dude named Tarquin Superbus or Tarquin the Proud. Proud. Um, Tarquin Superbus, Tarquin the Proud. And the exact story of what happened to him, there's a couple of different variations of it. We won't need to go into the details here. It's become sort of legend as much as history. But the bottom line is the nobles got tired of the king's bullshit and they got rid of him. But instead of just selecting a new king, which is usually what happens in simple kingship when the nobles are tired of dealing with their current king, instead of that, what happened was they decided to transition to a new form of government based on the rule of law, a form of government called a republic. So what happens is they get rid of Tarquin Superbus. The most of the stories say that they killed him. Some of the stories say that they just ran him out of town. But either way, they get rid of Tarquin Superbus and they institute a republic. So the Roman Republic starts in 509. They have a kind of constitution um, called the 12 Tables. Whereas a table in this context is sort of like a tablet is the usage here. Um, but they have a constitution uh, called the 12 Tables that establishes the rules, the laws under which the Roman Republic will operate, and that is the beginning of the Roman Republic. Okay, pretty cool. So, what makes a republic rather than a democracy? Well, in a republic, in a republic, the people are not directly, they're not voting directly for what happens in the society. In Greek democracy, it was ruled by the people, and the citizens ruled directly. Um, how can I explain this? Uh, Imagine, so, like for instance, there's a Department of Safety here. There's people that are responsible for maintaining the parks and the roads here in Tulsa. Um, People that are responsible for planning new construction or planning big events like the stuff that goes on downtown sometimes. Imagine if instead of having specialized departments and bureaucrats to take care of all that. Imagine if everyone who was a voting citizen handled that stuff themselves. That's what goes on in a pure democracy like Athens. In a pure democracy, the citizens are called up to serve on committees that run everything. That's how it worked in Athens. Um, you might be, if you were a citizen in Athens, every year you would get a committee assignment, and you might be responsible, along with a group of other citizens, for collecting taxes or maintaining the roads or something else. When they said democracy ruled by the people, they meant it. A republic, on the other hand, a republic, on the other hand, uh, is indirect rule. Um, a republic is indirect. Uh, it is where people vote and they vote for representatives who will handle all of this stuff for them. Like instead of, um, here's a good example. I talked about in the video on what is Glossy. I talked a little bit about the Greek legal system, and you'll notice that in the Greek legal system, if someone was called to be put on trial, what would happen is there was no judge, there's no prosecutor or anything like that. There's no public defender. There's just somebody, a citizen, making a charge, and the citizen answering that charge, and then a bunch of citizens who sit as a jury and decide guilt. Um, Whereas in a republic, you might vote for judges, vote for prosecutors, and elect people who will hire public defenders, and those people will handle that stuff for you, so to speak. You vote for a city council that will hire people to maintain the roads and things like that. So that was what Rome became. Rome became a republic, which was the first republic ever. Now, did Rome get the idea for this from Greece? The answer from those Greek colonies in the south, the answer is both yes and no. In the yes column, there is the fact that the Romans would have been exposed to the Greeks through trade. They would have been exposed to the idea of rule of law, which did not originate with Rome. It originates with the Greeks. They would have been exposed to this concept of the rule of law. However, the Greeks did not have a republic. The republic was something unique to Rome. It was something that the Romans invented. So that's in the no column. Rome did not get the idea of the republic from the Greeks because it didn't exist yet. But they definitely did, or almost certainly did, get the idea of the rule of law from the Greeks. They just implemented it in a very unusual way. So, the Roman Republic, Rome becomes a republic in 509. And for the first couple of hundred years, we're going to talk about this a little more in the next video, but the Roman Republic gets off to a slow start. Slow growth for about 200 years. 300. For about 200 years. Okay. It gets off to a fairly slow start. Slow growth for about 200 years. Between 509 and about 300. But the Republic was very prosperous. It allowed the nobles to avail themselves to the advantages of the rule of law, which is always good for trade, the economy grows well under a stable rule of law. And so Rome began to experience a lot of success and growth during the first few hundred years of its existence. Um, it slowly spread over Italy, um, conquering the peoples north and south of it. I've suddenly blanked on the people who lived north of the Romans. That's going to kill me. Hang on a second. Let me look that up. I'm going to pause this. The Etruscan people. The Etruscan people. Um, so, yeah, they get off to a slow start for the first couple of hundred years. Um, will you stop that? There we go. A slow start for the first couple of hundred years, conquering the Etruscan people north of them and taking over the Greek people to the south. Um, hey, I wasn't done there. To the north and Greeks to the south. Um, so anyway, yeah. Um, they get off to a slow start doing that. Now, uh, an important thing to note about the Roman Republic was that it was, this is going to come up. Stop that. I am just fighting with PowerPoint today. It was unequal by design. Not all citizens were equal. One thing that was interesting about the Roman Republic was that even the poorest people, unlike in Athenian democracy, even the poorest people were still citizens. Rome was a city of citizens. Everybody had these rights that had to be certain rights under the 12 tables, under the Roman Constitution. But they were not all equal. The wealthy had more power by law in Rome. This was a situation where um, the republic the republic was governed by the rule of law, but the laws were designed to be unequal so that the nobles could still hold on to most of the power. Their votes literally counted for more than the votes of the people who weren't as wealthy. Okay. Um, Now, this is going to give rise to a unique feature of Roman Republican society that will become very important later called the patron client system. The patron client system. Let me delete that slide. The patron client system. Um, Let me illustrate how the patron client system worked. Let me get a new slide in here. Okay. So, um, in order to get anything done, poor people this is a poor, like us, this is a poor. Um, a poor person needed, in order to get anything done with the institutions of Rome. So, when I talk about institutions, I'm talking about things like the courts and the public works departments and things like that. In order to get anything done with the institutions of Rome, a poor person needed help from a wealthy person. I'm going to put a little top hat on this one so that you know they're wealthy. Um, This is a rich person. Um, because the rich people literally had more political influence in society. So what would have to happen is the poor person would have to ask the rich person to intervene with the institutions in order to get anything accomplished in the Roman system, in this unequal system. So what happens is this person, the rich person, becomes the patron. Uh-huh. Uh, the rich person becomes the patron, and the poor person becomes the client. And this is called the patron-client system. Now, what does the rich person get out of this? The rich person gets a couple of things out of this. The client, even though the rich people did have votes that counted for more, there were a lot of poor people. So it could still be useful for the rich person to have poor people that voted the way that they wanted them to vote. Um, Other things that the poor person could offer the rich person in this case would be serving their house as servants or serving as guards or things like that. Um, so what would happen is there would develop these sort of symbiotic relationships where poor people would vote the way the rich people wanted and enter into service with the houses, and the rich people in return would provide patronage to them and help them get things done in this unequal system that was designed to be unequal. Um, okay. So that's the patron-client system, and it was inherent to the kind of republic that had been designed. The way that it was designed, the patron-client system was sort of an inevitable consequence of the structure of the Roman Republic. Um, let's see here. The Roman Republic was therefore, in a sense, unstable by design. It favored the rich, and it provided a level of income inequality and power inequality that as Rome grew, was going to become a real problem for it. It wasn't so bad when Rome was smaller, but as Rome gets bigger, it's going to be a real issue. So, okay. That one was kind of a short one, but we covered everything we needed to cover. So I'm going to close this down, and you have everything you need to answer the questions that are related to this. So have fun, have a good day, be well, and I'll see you later.